The Strangers franchise has 3 movies, and one ranks higher than the rest. The 4 simple words, "because you were home," sparked fear into the hearts of moviegoers with the release of the first film in 2008, as 3 masked killers wreaked havoc on a secluded couple with seemingly no motive. The Strangers was loosely based on experiences that director Brian Bertino had when he was young, and it shot the home invasion subgenre of horror into the spotlight. Not only is that genre still popular 16 years later, but the Strangers franchise is also still going strong. The Strangers, Chapter 2, the second movie in a trilogy that was filmed back-to-back-to-back, just hit theaters in late September of 2025. Director Renny Harlin has said he considers all 3 movies to be one complete story, viewing Chapter 1 as the first act of a longer film that continues with Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. With 2 of the 3 movies out, it's worth examining where they rank in comparison to the original 2 movies of the franchise. The Strangers, Chapter 2, continues the narrative that began in The Strangers, Chapter 1, but somewhat bafflingly, it simply runs in place. After introducing Madeleine Petsch's Maya Lucas as the trilogy's protagonist in Chapter 1, Chapter 2 picks up with her in the hospital after surviving the first attack from the Strangers. From there, we follow Maya as she runs, hides, and repeats for the rest of the runtime. The early scenes in the hospital have the closest thing resembling tension, as she is stalked by the bulky killer referred to as Scarecrow. Once Maya escapes to the woods surrounding the town of Venus, Oregon, the movie loses what little momentum it had. The film officially jumps the shark once Maya is chased by a feral pig unleashed by Scarecrow. The one bit of progress the movie provides comes via flashbacks about the killer known as Pinup Girl, who is revealed to be Shelley, the friendly waitress from Carol's Diner who first sent Maya and her fiancé to the remote Airbnb where the Strangers assault them in Chapter 1. We learn that she had psychopathic tendencies from a young age and committed her first murder as a child. It at least breaks away from the ultra-familiar formula that Chapter 1 stuck to, which was very nearly a shot-for-shot remake of the original The Strangers. However, the version of Chapter 2 that hit theaters included a round of reshoots based on audience feedback from Chapter 1. I shudder to think of what the original vision might have looked like. Like its predecessor, The Strangers, Chapter 2 was almost universally panned by critics, as it yielded an abysmal 16% Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter score. Shockingly, its Rotten Tomatoes popcorn meter score, which measures audience feedback, debuted at a 57%, which would make it the highest of any movie in the franchise, including the acclaimed original. The Strangers. Chapter 1 has plenty of intense and scary moments, but its biggest issue comes from its lack of originality. Because the film is more of a retelling of the 2008 original than anything else, many of the scenes feel a little too similar, and the direction of the story offers few surprises, especially to those familiar with the franchise. A few subtle differences, like the story's location setup and the couple's circumstances, offer enough differences for it to feel somewhat unique. But for the majority of the film, it feels like a replicated story. That's the risk of essentially retelling the same narrative. In these cases, typically the reboot offers a few surprises and shocks, or at least changes the tone of the film. The Strangers. Chapter 1 doesn't quite take this approach, and it certainly isn't gore-filled or chock-full of jump scares. Everything this film does, its predecessor did in a better and scarier way. Chapter 1 isn't a boring film, and maybe lands differently for a younger generation of horror audiences who haven't seen the original, but on its own, it doesn't stand very tall. The Strangers. Chapter 1's issues were concerning upon its release when considering that it was only the first part of an already filmed trilogy. While it's possible the movie will be viewed in a more positive light once the entire story is told, it also could be remembered as the one that kicks off a whole series of disappointing films. However, Chapter 1 does have a couple of things working for it. The limited strength of The Strangers. Chapter 1 comes from its technical aspects.